Night session. The focus tonight is on teaching young learners again. This is part of our program for teachers of children. Our program is called Prepare for TKT YL, and we are learning all that has to do with delivering successful teaching to young learners. The focus tonight is on learning through play. All right? So we are going to start, and I want to tell you first what we will be covering tonight. What will we talk about tonight? First, we are going to have an approach on the importance of play in teaching YL. This is YL teaching, learning through play. And then we are going to talk about games, types and the role of games in our classes as teachers of children. And finally, we will be covering all that has to do with children as language learners. All right, so are you ready to start? Should I continue? All right, good. Let's sing then. We are going to sing a song tonight, the same as the other day, all right? But before we start, I'm going to pre-teach the vocabulary we will need for tonight's song, all right? What can you see here? Look at my picture. This is a picture of, who's this? Who's this? Jesus, Jesus, great. Jesus, very good, very good. Repeat after me, Jesus. Your microphones are open now.
Jesus.
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 Good. Who's that?
Jesus.
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 Where is Jesus? Where can we find
Jesus.
Where can we
Jesus.
find Jesus? Where does he live? Where does Jesus live?
Heaven.
In heaven, right?
Yes.
But he
On
also
the clouds.
in our
Heart.
heart. Yes, he lives in heaven. He lives in our heart. All right, good. What's that? Who's that?
Heart.
It's a king.
King. Good.
It's a
Yeah.
king.
King.
A king.
King. King.
King.
King.
King.
What's that?
University.
The
Universe.
Universe.
After me, universe. Universe.
Universe.
Universe, the universe. What can we find in the universe?
universe.
We can find
Universe.
the planets, stars,
Sun.
comets,
Clouds.
comets, the sun,
Planets.
meteorites, right?
Meteorites.
Good. And what's that? That's a picture of a
Jungle.
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 Good. Good jungle. And this is a
The sea.
The sea.
The sea.
The
so we
sea.
have universe,
Sea.
jungle,
Jungle.
Jungle
and
and
sea.
sea.
All right. Who's that?
Jesus.
Yes. And that's
Jesus.
King.
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 all right. Let's do it again. What's that?
University.
Universe.
Universe.
King.
King. King.
Sea.
Sea. Sea.
Jesus.
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 Jungle.
Jungle.
Jungle. Right. Jungle.
Jungle.
All right. Good.
Okay, I can see the sea.
Sea.
The sea.
The jungle.
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 Jesus.
Jesus. Jesus.
Jesus. King.
The king. The
Universe.
Universe.
All right. Good.
The king of the jungle.
Who is the king of the jungle?
Who is the king of the jungle?
Jungle. Who is the king of the sea?
Lion.
Who is the
Oh,
king
what?
of the
Lion.
universe?
The lion.
The king of me?
Of
The lion.
the universe.
I.
Lion is the king of the sea, right? And who is
The
the king
Jesus. Jesus.
of me?
Jesus.
Ah, yes. I'll
The king
tell
of the
you.
jungle.
J-E-S.
I'll tell you.
Yes, yes, J-E-S-U-S. He's the king of me. He's the king of
Okay.
the universe, the jungle, and the
In
sea.
the sea.
And the same. Okay.
All right, good.
Understand now.
Okay, good. All right, now we are going to sing a song. All right, I want to hear you all. All right, so we all are
All right.
singing.
Right.
Okay. Who is the king of that sea? Who is the king of that universe? Who is the king of me? I'll tell you, yes, he is the king of me. He is the king of that universe. The jungle and the sea.
King of the sea? Who is the king of the universe? Who's the king of
All right, good, 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 so good. Okay, we are going to sing again. Now I want you to move, all right? I want you all to follow me, to repeat what I say, to repeat what I do. I'm standing up right now, all right? So that you can follow me. Can you all see me and hear me? Yes?
Yes. Yes.
All
Yes.
right, okay, good.
Yes.
You need to repeat what I do,
Yes.
repeat what I say, all right? Everybody with me. Who is?
Who is?
Who is? Okay, stand up and turn on your cameras. I want to see you all.
Los quiere ver.
Okay, who is
Who is
Who
the king
the
king
of the jungle?
Of
the
the
jungle?
jungle.
The jungle. Who is
who is
the king
the king
of the sea?
Of the
of the
sea.
sea?
Who is
Who is
the king
The
the king
of the universe?
of
of
the
the
universe?
And
universe.
who's
And who's
the king
the king
of me?
of me?
Me.
I'll tell you.
I'm telling you.
I'll tell you.
I'm telling you.
Tell you.
J-E-S-U-S.
J-E-S-U-S.
Come on, jumping. Yes.
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 Jump higher. Yes.
Yes.
He's the king of me.
He is the
king of me.
He's the king of the universe,
He's the king of the universe,
the jungle,
the jungle,
and the sea.
At the sea.
On the sea.
Ba, 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 ba.
Baba, baba,
Baba,
baba.
baba.
Who?
Wow, wow, wow. Ooh, ooh.
Ooh, ooh.
Excellent. All right. Now you have to clap, you have to move, you have to dance. All right. I want everyone to sing with me. Ready?
Camera, mi cámara.
Cameras on.
Mi cámara no puedo activar. Who is the
On the jungle. Who is the king of the sea? Who is the king of the universe? Well, he told me yes.
Pero no todos han puesto su video, yo no quiero poner.
Ooh. Who is the king of the jungle? Who is the king of the sea? Who is the king of the universe? And kill me. Who is the king of the universe? The jungle and the sea. Ba, 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 ba. Ooh.
Woo! Claps, 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 claps for everyone. All right, good.
Nice.
I'm getting old. All right, good. Did you like the song?
Yes, I like.
All right, it's a very active beginning.
It is, right? It is. That's the idea. Well, most of you are teachers of children, so we need to be energetic, we need to be active, we need to be enthusiastic, we need to be dynamic in our classes, right? Not only in face-to-face classes, but also right now that we are delivering online teaching, we need to deliver the lessons with the same enthusiasm, with a smile on our faces, with a lot of dynamism. So that's our job. All right, and thanks for following me, thanks for singing with me, thanks for being here tonight. Welcome again, my name is Mr. Juan Valenzuela, and tonight the focus is on learning through play. First of all, we are going to talk about the importance of games. Are games important in teaching? What do you think? What can you tell me? Are they important?
Of course they are.
Yeah, right?
Yes, of course.
Who doesn't like games? Everybody likes games. Not only children like games, but also adults like games. Everybody likes games. And why? Why should we include games in our teaching? Why games in the classroom, in the English as a foreign language classroom? Number one, because games are motivating and fun, right?
Right.
Children like them. And as I said before, not only children, everybody likes games, right? Games are also a natural part of growing up and learning. And as I said, yes, last week, as we saw last week, yes, Johan, kids learn while they play. So playing means learning for children, all right? Many times adults don't associate play or games to learning because we, the adults, think that learning only takes place in formal situations, in a classroom by opening a book, but games are a fantastic way to make children learn not only a language, but anything in life. Why use games in the classroom? Because they provide a context, right? They also ensure interaction and they promote cooperation. Also, games add variation to a lesson. Okay, I'm going to show right now a list of games or types of games. Many of those are known by you because perhaps you are using these type of games in your classes, all right? And some others could be maybe a novelty you will see tonight. We have movement games, for example, card games, board games, dice games, drawing games, guessing games, miming games, role play games, singing and chanting games, word games, and team games. Here are some, let's say, specific examples of each of these type of games. An example of a movement game is, for example, Simon Says, right? Simon Says, hands up. So everybody, please, hands up, hands down. Simon Says, stand up. Right. Simon Says, touch your nose. Sit down. Simon says, touch your ears. Simon Says, point to the door. What is the door in your house? The door. Point to the door. Simon Says, point to a window. A window. Point to a window in your house. Simon Says, show me a pencil. Show me a pencil. Who has a pencil? Who can show me a pencil? Oh my God, nobody has a pencil. I can't believe it. All right, good. Ceci, Cecilia, good. All right. This is an example of a movement games. And children love moving. They don't like being sitting down all day, right? They need, actually they need to move. It is a natural part of their growing up.
You might modify the game because I don't like so much noises.
All right. We have also card games. Rubber games.
Valeries, yes.
Rubber games, which are used when we need to know who the winner will be. When there is a tie, when we are playing and there is a tie, it's like 7-7, 7 points for each team. This is when we use a rubber game to see who the winner will be. All right? Children enjoy competitions, for example, boys versus girls, right? And sometimes things are tight because it's 2-2, 3-3, 4-4. So this is when we use a rubber game. A rubber game then is a game we use when we need to know who the winner will be. Another example is a guessing game. Here in the picture you can see that we can use the alphabet, for example, for playing, right? When you are teaching the children the alphabet or new words, you ask them to spell their words. This way they can play and they can have fun and they can learn, all right? Role play games. Everybody likes role play, right? We all use this type of technique or strategy for learning in our classes, right? Students sometimes improvise conversations or sometimes they talk about their lives by asking questions, right? By asking certain questions, and this is a chance they are given to learn new vocabulary as well as to develop speaking, to develop fluency. All right, we have singing games. Today we had a singing game, for example, at the beginning of tonight's session. We started with a song, right? And this was a way to play and have fun together. We have word games. We have word games. All right. Then we said team games like Chinese whispers, right? Chinese whispers is an example of a team game. We call this game the broken telephone in Spanish. You have to pass a message to another person, and then when the message gets to the last person, you have to tell everyone what the original message was. All right, this is called Chinese whispers. Children, you know, enjoy playing, they love playing, they love games. Here is another example of a team game, picture memory. Yes, Edward, team games promote cooperation, as you said. And here we have some rousers and settlers. Do you know the difference? Rousers are games which involve an element of movement, competition, using your body, right? Like Simon Says is an example of a rouser. But for example, if you are playing with cards, if you are playing a memory game, which is also fun, but more calm, more relaxed, or making handcraft activities, making origami, for example, that would be also an example of a settler, right? That's the difference between rousers and settlers, because sometimes we need a game that can energize the class. Sometimes we get to the classroom and the children feel tired, sleepy, so we need a rouser to energize the class. But sometimes the children are too active, right? And we need something that makes them calm down. This is when we need to think of a settler, a more calm, a more relaxed activity. All right? That's the difference between rousers and settlers. Yes, Johan, settlers are used to calm the class down. Yes, Johan. All right? Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. All right? All right, yes, Vladimir, you remember one game I taught you I used once where kids make a circle, yeah, they have a piece of paper. That's also fun, but more calm, right? That would be in the group of settlers, for example. So games are important, but the type of game we include in our teaching will depend on the students' attitudes, on the time available, and also the topics we are covering. All right, it is good to include games, but we need to also be good at selecting, at choosing what type of game will be more suitable for our classes. Now let's move on to the next slide, which is on the role of games. What can we use games for? Well, number one, you can use games to introduce new material. All right, you can also use games to practice recently learned language items, to revise language, to consolidate language, to relax or energize a class, as I said before, depending on your students' attitude, all right? And sure, yes, Roseville, to motivate the students. All right, here are some tips for introducing games in the classroom. Number one, try to choose games that are connected to the topics you will be covering. All right? What is the focus of the language you will be revising? What will the students practice? This way, you can set a context. You can establish a context. You can contextualize your lesson. And language will be easier to be acquired. Another tip would be to play different games, not to play the same every time in every class. That will be boring for the children, right? You have to vary the order. Many teachers think that games should be done only at the beginning of a lesson because it's like our warm-up, right? Our warm-up activity. But no, you can play a game in the middle of your lesson, or maybe one day you can finish your lesson with a game. You can vary the order. That's another tip for introducing games in the classroom. Children will enjoy them. Don't drag a game. Don't do the same game once again and again. And also plan carefully. check that your materials are appropriate, the environment for the game will be safe. All right, right now we are teaching online. We need to make sure the students are in a safe environment, and we need to plan our games in a way that everything runs smoothly. All right. What can you do to control large classes? I know that many of you are teaching classes of 30 students, 35 students online. The other day, one teacher told me that she has 48 students in a class, all right? What can you do to control large classes? Well, you should try to include whole class games, like Simon Says, for example, because this way you will get everyone involved with the topic, with the game. You can let your students manage the games. As long as you model the game, what the games are about, then students can take turns to lead the games, to be the leaders, to be like the teachers. You can also divide your classes into groups. If you are teaching via Zoom, for example, you can make groups, you can assign rooms, you can assign groups to your students. That's another way to make your students play in classes. Or make them turn players into teams. You can also set up different stations in the classroom, like for example, the game station, the reading station, the listening station, etc. Yes, Edward, create groups and create a game where they can compete and work as teams. Good, Vladimir, what you're doing is fine. Dividing the activities so everyone in the group is producing while you are checking the other students' progress. All right, do you know these websites? Last Saturday, I shared with you a list of websites for online teaching. But the websites I shared on Saturday were related to general teaching, not only teaching English to children, but also to teenagers and adults, right? Tonight, I want to share with you these links, maybe two of them. So that we can explore them together. Okay, let's see. Here's one. Have you ever been to this website? Here are lots of activities that are divided according to the students' levels. You know that Cambridge Young Learners has 3 different levels: pre-A1 starters, A1 movers, and A2 flyers, right? Here are drama activities, for example. You can take a look at the drama activity video, and also activities for the different levels. If you click here and go to resources for all levels, you can access the different resources, the different materials for enriching your classes and make your children have fun while they learn. One good thing about this website is that there are activities for students with different abilities. Here is a worksheet, for example, that's called Meet Captain Zoom vocabulary worksheet, Jones vocabulary worksheet, using visual literacy in the primary classroom. Here's a video on a webinar, picture perfect, bringing the young learner classroom to life. Etc. The other day, I shared this link, right, with a group of teachers. Here are games you can try with the students. When teaching primary, you need to model the activities. One time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Then the students will start to do things independently. But the first times you need to model the activities. If you want your students to play online, you have to play with them the first times so that they know what the games are about, all right? How the, let's say, how the websites work, because you know different websites have different settings and different ways to do things. So the first times you need to model. You need to model. Here, for example, in this website, which is called WordWall, if you type like a keyword, depending on the topic you will be covering, you can find different games for your children. Here are options. Here are the options. The first activity is a matching activity, as you see here. It says match up, right? Then it's a quiz, a game show quiz. The good thing about this website is that the vocabulary that children will learn is being recycled. And the other day I said that little children learn easily by repetition. So the more they repeat things, the more they see things, the better for their learning, because they will internalize the vocabulary, they will learn the words more effectively. Blouse, where is it? A, B, C, or D? Blouse. A, B, C, or D?
B. Letter B.
Coat.
Letter A.
Letter A.
Letter A.
Dress.
Letter C.
Letter
Letter
C.
C. Letter A.
Letter A. A.
Letter C.
Letter C.
Okay. All right.
Letter C.
If you click on the game show quiz, it's the same vocabulary. As I said
Letter
before,
A.
they recycle and recycle the vocabulary, but it's a different type of activity.
Sorry. Letter A.
Letter
Blouse.
C.
Letter B.
Letter B.
Letter B.
All right, good. Now let's write the main.
Letter B.
As I said before, is vocabulary. They will be recycling vocabulary, which is good This way they will acquire the vocabulary. This is the way children learn more significantly. They enjoy repetition, they love repetition. They feel more secure with repetition, with routines, for example. All right, it's loading. All right, we've talked about the importance of games so far, some types of games, and the role of games in the classroom.
Vocabulary people, close and accessories.
Let's continue with the presentation now. Let me I hope you understand. All right. Okay. Let's continue then. I want you to confirm you can use last week when we were little. This is the way we acquire a first language. The second language, as you see here, usually comes with formal teaching. And language acquisition takes place in a constantly stimulating environment. Children are exposed to their first language from the very beginning, since they are born, right? And they are literally bombarded with language all the time. So if you want the children to learn English, you have to bombard your children with English, not with Spanish. Last week we were talking on the importance of teaching English in English. It shouldn't be a 50% English or 50% Spanish class, but 100% English class. So if you want the children to learn English, to acquire a second language effectively, you have to bombard them with this second language all the time. If we think of teaching as the other side of learning, then by trying to understand better how children learn, we will have more understanding of how to teach them. Because learning, as you can see here, is often confused with studying or memorizing. As I said at the beginning, right? As I said at the beginning, learning is usually confused with the studying or memorizing, because we as adults have already acquired learning strategies. We the adults often confuse learning with studying. But the studying is a tool for learning. If you study, you learn, yes. But the studying, it's not the only way you can learn something. Who can cook here? Who can make a good ceviche here? Tell me in the chat box, who can make a good ceviche or a good chaufa here? Edward, you?
Me, teacher.
Yes. All right, good. Flor, all right. The only way to learn to make a good ceviche is by reading a recipe, by watching Gastón Acurio on TV. Is that the only way you can learn to make a good ceviche? Or also by trying, by experimenting, by asking, by looking at other people, you can also learn. What do you think? What do you say? No, right? Also by experiencing, we can learn to make a good ceviche, right? By practicing, by looking at your mom, you can learn to make a good ceviche, right? The same way, to learn a new language, studying is not the only way to learn a new language. You learn a new language also by experimenting, by experiencing, by playing with the language. And for young learners, learning is still a question of experiencing rather than committing information to memory. So we, the teachers of children, need to provide our students with the ability of experiencing. What for? To ensure successful learning. Because children learn from experience, children don't distinguish learning situations from no learning ones. For a little boy or girl, all situations are learning situations. Not only by writing or copying words, they are learning, also by talking to a friend, by running, by touching, by playing with a toy, they are also learning, because for a child, it is very difficult to distinguish learning situations from no learning ones. So this is an extremely influential factor for teachers to remember when working with primary school children. Because we will see that every moment of our time, every minute, every second of our class is potentially learning time, and we should take full advantage of this. The 4 skills, reading, speaking, listening, and writing, can be practiced in the classroom, both formally and informally. That is, for example, the exercises that you have in your book, the exercises in the course materials, can provide your students with formal practice, which is good. I'm not saying that this is bad. But remember that last week I said that we cannot focus our teaching on grammar, because explaining grammar is a waste of time when teaching children. Children don't really understand grammar. Grammar is too abstract for them. It's too complex. So the activities in the book can help to revise, to consolidate. But this is still formal practice. We also need to think of ways to include informal practice, and the children can develop the 4 skills: reading, listening, speaking, and writing. Because, for example, classroom communication also provides some practice, which is less formal or informal, but that is often integrated to the 4 skills. So we, the teachers of young learners, we, the teachers of children, should take maximum advantage of this informal practice because it represents free communication in the classroom. Are you following me, teachers? May I continue?
Yes, teacher.
All right, good. I want
Yes,
you
teacher.
in the chat box.
Yes.
Texting in the chat box. All right, good. With young learners, with children, we are essentially concentrating on listening and speaking. The other day I told you, and every time I have a webinar with teachers of primary, I tell them to concentrate on listening and speaking. The problem here in Peru is that teachers start their teaching with reading and writing, and they leave listening and speaking in the last position. What is worse, many teachers never do listening or speaking in their classes. Their teaching, their classes are only grammar, reading, writing, vocabulary, and this is a disaster. This is why many people from our generation have problems with English, because they say that they understand what they read or they can write certain things, but they cannot speak. But their tongues don't move. So at primary level, there are obvious constraints, there are obvious limitations to the reading and writing skills. When we are little, when you were little, when we were little, and we learn our mother tongue, our native language, Spanish, what did we learn first? To speak or to write? What did we learn first? Who can tell me? When we learn Spanish, our native language?
Speak.
To speak, right?
To
So
speak.
speaking should naturally come first when learning a new language, not writing.
Yes.
What comes first when you learn your own language, your native language? Listening or reading? What comes first, or what should come first?
Listening.
The same way in English as a foreign language, in teaching English as a foreign language, listening and speaking should be first. So if you are teaching kinder, if you are teaching primary, your class should be full of listening and speaking activities, stories, songs, tongue twisters, competitions, etc., etc., etc. So some of your younger students may only just be managing in their L1, in their first language, and others may not yet have fully developed the hand-eye coordination needed to write at any speed. Here in Peru and in general all over the world, children are learning to read and write at the age of 7. To be able to go to second grade of primary, sure, it's not mandatory to know to read or write in the children's first language. In some cases, as you can see here, the children may not have fully developed their writing skills in their own language, and introducing them to writing in English could cause confusion, especially where similar words are concerned. So teaching writing at a very young age can be confusing, can be a trauma for your students. All right? Furthermore, different stages of development may be marked. Last week we talked about the development statements. Since a boy or girl is born, the characteristics or what they can do at certain stages of their lives when they are between 16 and 26 months, then when they are between 40 and 50 months, right? And these different stages of development may be marked, particularly at the beginning of the school year. We shouldn't forget that at this stage, the difference in development between a child who is 8 years old in January and one who is not 8 until December of the same year can be considerable. Sometimes we have in a classroom children that are 10, but some others are 11. And many times between the ages of 10 and 11 are differences that we need to take into consideration to deliver successful teaching. For example, an 8 to 11-year-old tells the difference between fact and fiction. But a 7, 8-year-old is not able yet to tell the difference between fact and fiction. Okay, let's focus now on how to stimulate the learning process. Number one, here's my first piece of advice. Present the language orally, the way I did it tonight. How did I teach you vocabulary tonight? Do you remember the way I started tonight's webinar? How did I present vocabulary? Do you remember? With a song. Before the song, before we sang together, what did I do? How did I teach you the vocabulary? Did I write words? Did I include words? Pictures only, right? And I presented the language orally, right? Orally. I presented the language orally because I said, who's that? Who's that person? You said Jesus, okay? Repeat Jesus. I didn't write the word Jesus. I showed a picture of Jesus. And I asked you, where does Jesus live? You said, in heaven. I said, in our heart. I was still presenting the language orally. I didn't say, take out your notebook and take notes. Please write Jesus. J-E-S-U-S, Jesus, repeat Jesus. No, I started to present the language orally with pictures. Jungle, sea, universe, king. All right? So if you want to stimulate the learning process, if you want learning to happen, if you want your students to learn, my first piece of advice is to present language orally, because the children need to listen to language not only on CDs or in the book as part of formal instruction and from you, but also from you through informal communication in the classroom. Talk to your children in English, only in English, and use natural language. If you use mimics, if you smile, if you use pictures, the children will understand you, the children will follow you. So there's no necessity to write, to make them read, right? But the first thing we need to make sure of is to be able to present the language orally. All right, are you all following me? May I continue?
Yes, teacher.
Good. If you want learning to happen, if you want to stimulate the learning process, my second piece of advice is spend a good part of your class time, getting your students speaking. At a very young age, you cannot expect the students to speak a lot, to speak fluently, to produce a lot of English. Short phrases, short expressions are okay. The purpose of language is communication. So we have to make our children use the language. Young learners, children need to read both from their course materials and informally in the classroom. So provide visual support for language, such as labeling the classroom, making posters. So it is extremely important to make children play with letters and words as part of learning to read. Writing, remember, is the last skill that we develop in language learning, not the first. As I said before, many teachers in Peru start their teaching with reading and writing, and they leave listening and speaking in the second place. What is worse, many teachers never do listening and speaking. They do only writing and reading. writing is the last skill that we develop in language learning. I'm saying many teachers in Peru, but I'm not talking about you, I'm talking of other teachers, all right, in Peru, not you. I'm sure you don't do that. Writing cannot be performed successfully until the other three stages are in place. And the first two, remember, are speaking and listening, listening and speaking, then reading and writing, remember, is the last skill that we develop in language learning. And one of the reasons why second language teaching is so often unsuccessful is because the majority of teachers spend too much time on writing activities. And this is why, as I said before, many people from our generation have serious problems with English. Because in our times, our teachers, our English teachers, never did listening or speaking. They did only writing. This is why I am saying again that one of the reasons why second language teaching is so often unsuccessful is that teachers spend too much time on writing activities. Okay, we are about to finish. We can now look at some peculiarities of the English language and how these factors can influence the way we teach English in the primary classroom. This has to do with pronunciation. If we ask, for example, someone who has learned English as a foreign language, what they find most frustrating about learning English, they will probably say that it is pronunciation, right? Many people say that the most difficult part of English learning is pronunciation, that they cannot move their tongues, right? The fact that the connection between the way words are written and the way they are pronounced is so apparently chaotic. It is a problem for many people. Unlike many Latin-based languages, each letter in English doesn't have one independent or unchanging sound. Most vowels, the majority of vowels in English can be pronounced in two or more ways. Like the vowel A in the word table is pronounced A, table. But in the word father is pronounced A, father, right? But in the word cat is pronounced eh. So most vowels in English can be pronounced in two or more ways. Brought together in different combinations, they form different sounds. There are 20 different vowel sounds in English, can you believe it? In Spanish, we only have 5 vowel sounds. A, E, I, O, U. That's all we have in Spanish. A, E, I, O, U. But in English, there are 20 different vowel sounds, all produced by the 5 letters, the 5 vowels we know in Spanish. There are many different consonants combinations which produce different sounds. Sorry about the spelling here. For example, the letters TH can be pronounced, the letters TH can be pronounced in different ways in English. Like TH can be pronounced like in thanks or birthday, and it can be pronounced the, as in they or them. Additionally, there are some letter combinations which make certain letters silent. For example, in words ending in E, such as take, the letter E is silent, and hope, the letter E is silent. And in listen, the letter T is silent, because we don't say listen, we say listen. In the words comb and lamb, the B is silent, comb, lamb. These are just a few of the peculiarities of English sound spelling correspondences. As if this were not enough of a problem, English, unlike many languages, doesn't use accents to show where a word should be stressed, like in Spanish, right? Like in máximo, we put accent or what we call tilde. And we know that max is a stress syllable, right? So we have to know where to put the stress. And we, the teachers of primary, have to be knowledgeable of these things. Many people also say, and this is completely wrong, that it is enough to have a basic level of English to teach in primary, in the primary level. Because we don't know to be very knowledgeable about the language, and that is wrong. We, the teachers of primary, should have at least B2 level, upper intermediate level, because we have the most responsibility. So if we don't have good pronunciation, our students won't have good pronunciation. If we don't have good grammar, our students won't have good grammar. So we, the teachers of children, have to be very good at the language, have to have a good level of the language. What level? As I said before, at least level B2. If you want to teach kinder or primary, I would recommend you also to work on your English, to improve your English. All right, we are finishing here. You may find a selection of exercises in your course book which are designed to help children to deal with pronunciation, and this is good. But remember that correct pronunciation is only developed by listening to English and reproducing the sounds. So if you want your students to have good pronunciation, you have to speak to them in English only in class, and you are supposed to have a good level of English and good pronunciation. All right? Okay, that's all for tonight. Remember that reading English is not good for pronunciation. What is good for pronunciation? Listening to English and giving the students opportunities to speak in English. All right? Would you like to learn more about teaching English to young learners? Are you following me in the chat box, please? The microphones are open. Would you like to learn more about English teaching to young learners? All right. So,
Yes, teacher.
Yes.
Yes, I do.
Yes, teacher.
congratulations in my Prepare for TKT YL program. And for those who haven't enrolled yet, you can still enroll in the program. If you want to learn more about, we have a platform we are completing, which is like extra practice, like an extra resource for teachers for learning more about how to teach English successfully to children. All right. Now I want you all to write in the chat box, please, one thing you learned tonight. Please tell me in the chat box what you have learned tonight. What have you learned tonight? Can you please tell me in the chat box? What have you learned tonight? Please type in the chat box or open your microphone and tell me what you have learned. Okay, the relevance of using games in the classroom. Thanks, Marilyn, for your comment. Marilyn, what have you learned tonight? What have you learned for your teaching tonight? What have you learned as a teacher tonight? Listening or speaking, and speaking are the first skills. Excellent, Isela. Different games, okay, games, the importance of speaking, how to use games with young learners. Excellent, what else? What else have you learned tonight? Please tell me in the chat box. Thank you. Thank you, Mecholi. Thank you for being here, my dear friend. Importance of listening and speaking, yes, especially when teaching young learners, right? And when teaching in general. If you're teaching teenagers or adults, listening and speaking first, remember, listening and speaking first. The first 2, 3 the year, The first weeks of the year, the first bimester should be full of listening and speaking only. Oral skills. Excellent. All right, I want to thank Juan Diego, my son, for helping me with tonight's presentation. Didn't know what to do. And he taught me how to share my presentation via Google. All right. All right. I want you all to turn on your cameras now, please. I want you all to turn on your cameras, all right, for the photo. Okay, everybody here, please, your cameras for the photo. And everybody singing. Who is the king of the jungle, the sea, the universe? Who is the king of the jungle? Who is the king of the sea? Who is the king of the...
Who is the king of the universe? See, who is
the king of me? He is the king of the universe, the jungle and the sea. Your cameras, cameras. Who is the king of the jungle? Who is the king of the sea? Who is the king of the universe? Who is the king of me? I'll tell you, he is the king of me. He is the king of the universe.
He is the king of
All right, thank you, thank you. Hugs and kisses for everyone. Goodbye.